Ben Turner graduates from the Juris Doctor Law program. Prior to TRU, he received a Bachelor of Arts from Claremont McKenna College and worked in San Francisco and Vancouver. At TRU, Ben enjoyed learning from the passionate, engaged faculty, working alongside wonderful peers, that's you, and being empowered by supportive mentors. He was a research assistant to Professors Robert Diab, Andrew Pillier, Nicole Sharbus, and Chief Law Librarian Mary Hemmings, and a teaching assistant to Professor Jeffrey Myers. On campus, Ben served as junior co-chair and conference chair for the TRU SLS conference and completed as an oralist in the 2020 Wilson Moot. Ben was awarded the Law Foundation Public Interest Award and 5 Dean's Course prizes. After graduation, Ben will be clerking at the Supreme Court of British Columbia and Victoria before returning to practice at Fasken LLP in Vancouver.
Good morning, honored guests, Chancellor, President, Honorary Doctorate recipient Bev Sellers, Dean Millard, faculty members, friends, family, and of course, my fellow graduates. Before I begin my remarks, I just want to acknowledge that we are gathered here today on, as Ms. Sellers talked about, the unceded and territorial and traditional territory of the Secwepemc people, Secwepemc Ulu, and I have been so honored to learn and engage on these lands with my peers these past 3 years. Reflecting on this moment, on our convocation and on our graduation, there is so much to celebrate, to commemorate, and yet I think there's also value in reflection, in contemplation, and even in mourning. But before I get into the real substance of my remarks, I want to signpost to roadmap a little bit. I'm told great lawyers are clear, to the point, and succinct, and they don't repeat themselves like saying to the point and succinct in the same sentence. That one, I admit, will take work for me. Bad lawyers are convoluted, they lose track of their purpose, and they condescend, which, if you don't know, means to talk down to people. Mercifully, my speech contains few to no puns, and you won't be examined on this, but I will use one quote, which you will all likely knowingly nod at. I admit I do start to verge on lecturing, but of course, this is law school. And if you don't agree with me, well, don't worry, it's already almost over. So let me tell you right at the start, in the spirit of transparency and in the spirit of clarity, what the takeaway from my speech is. The ratio, the holding, the thing that you're supposed to sort of have from this set of remarks, right at the top. The ratio is, it depends. It's a familiar phrase some of us might be used to hearing, but let me tell you why. We were the online class. We did 1L, through Zoom, through Blue Jeans, through Big Blue Button, and through a lot of obstacles and challenges. Other classes endured the switch to online learning and to remote learning, but we were thrust headfirst into it, with no taste of the before times. We lost a year of closeness, of handshakes, of high fives, and of hugs. We endured glitches and hot mics and fought against our internet connections and even our video reflections. It's not the whole of our experience, but I think we cannot escape being defined by it, at least in part. Many of us lost opportunities, a form of liberty, and even loved ones. I myself lost my maternal grandfather at the beginning of 2L, who in another life had dreamed of becoming a lawyer himself. I know many of my classmates lost people closest to them, people that I know are with us in spirit now, watching and no less proud of all of your incredible accomplishments. In 2021, with the discovery of 215 bodies of children here in Kamloops at the Kamloops Indian Residential School, we had our capacity for grief as a society and as a country pushed to the brink. The world had looked to our corner of the interior of BC. These different forms of tragedies and of loss, they signal to us that the world is not immutable. Our concepts of education, of truth, and reconciliation, they're not and they should never be static. I don't mean to dwell in the past. I simply put to you that we were constantly asked to remove ourselves in a way from the current moment, looking to what had been done before and hoping for a return to normal. I think this equips us with an ability to make the legal system more malleable, to show that not only we made it through, but we found the best practices and evolved to the needs of the day. We lived through an unprecedented time as we were constantly reminded, all in a type of learning rooted in precedent. The irony was not lost on us. Indeed, throughout our time at law school, we are challenged to be innovative, to be adaptive, to be brave, all in a form of education that sometimes, if not by design, is resistant to change. We didn't do this alone. We were guided through these 3 years by an exceptional team of people working alone and in unison to not just inform us, but to form us as lawyers and as law students. Our incredible faculty, our sessional instructors, our administrators who painstakingly design curricula to keep our school running and teaching us through all kinds of different methods, all for us, of course, to slightly challenge it with an off-topic hypothetical, some of us maybe more than others. Our tireless deans and staff members who kept the lights on and where possible kept the non-law students out of the 3rd and 4th floor. But I think one of the greatest things that I have respect for in a legal education and the greatest gratitude for as a lawyer, or as a burgeoning lawyer, is that we aren't just a series of achievements or accolades. We're made up of the stuff that we learn and that we gain from our teachers, from our mentors, and even our inspirations. Sooner than we realize, we have knowledge, skills, and of course, opinions. So many opinions that we too can pass on. We did it, and we did it together. When we think about the future and what we think about what lies ahead, we talk about professional duties, the must-dos, the requirements, the process, analysis. We look to rules, structures, and systems for patterns, guidance, and answers. But within each of us is this new ability, this superpower of a legal education. And of course, with great legal acumen comes great law society ordered requirements. This education is a toolkit. It's a lens to see the world, to analyze situations, to address problems, and indeed, I believe, to help people. Whether that's as solicitors predicting and anticipating risk, building for the future, as litigators persuading, finding truth in the past, and in advocating, we can use tools like trauma-informed practice, a tender and thoughtful touch to the most sensitive issues, or our own unique constellation of skills that we bring to law school and to the law. We can strive to a more inclusive, human-centered conception of access to justice, and yes, that sometimes means justice outside of a classroom, a court, or even a law office. In her memoir, Chief Justice Beverly McLaughlin, pause for knowing nods from the graduates, wrote that the law is a framework for productive human activity, a buttress for human creativity. The law is more than the embodiment of one person's will. It is the collective wisdom of countless sage people over great stretches of time. While her memoir is not law, nor is it binding, I want to disagree at least in part with what Chief Justice McLaughlin wrote. It wouldn't be law school without a hot take on a judge's opinion. That's basically the whole thing. The law isn't just the collective wisdom of the people that have come before us. The law is their faults, it's their flaws, and sometimes it's even their warped views of the world. We inherit a law with rules that we don't always agree with. But what I do agree with is that it's more than one person, as much as Lord Denning would have us believe otherwise. The law depends on us to mold it, to shape it, to challenge it, and even sometimes when it truly errs, to reject it. So why does all this matter? What's the point of our degree? To those family and friends gathered here today, you may have asked your graduate, how do I get out of that speeding ticket? Or is that really a criminal offense? Or what's going on with federalism? They probably didn't ask you that, but let's just say they did. And you'd often hear this very said phrase in the faculty and beyond, well, it depends. Now, we know it's insufferable. We've heard it for 3 years. It's not a great answer, and it's the catch-all lawyerly answer. It depends on the facts, on the state of law, on the right room, the right day, the right judge assessing the question. As we moved through law school, we found different versions of this dependence, of how does a snail in a bottle tell us about what we owe one another? How is property really a bundle of rights? How is it that sometimes the federal government and the provinces don't get along, to name just a few? Each case hinged on a new and different factor, be it an idea, a phrase, or even a punctuation mark. So when I say it depends, perhaps what I mean is this. It depends on us. It depends on us to look past the surface, to not jump to a naive or instinctive conclusion, to sometimes, if not often, admit we're not sure or that we simply don't know. It depends on all of us not just to grind and toil in our work, jammed up with the most difficult tasks in an office or in a government agency, but to be of service to our clients and to society. It depends on those courageous enough to challenge the broken or even immoral laws. The study and practice of law allows us to be in conversation with institutions, with systems of power, authority, and justice, with those sage yet imperfect people of the past, and especially, if not most importantly, with one another. To conclude Chief Justice McLaughlin's quote, she wrote, "The law secures us and allows us to move forward in peace and harmony. In an age of unraveling, it offers stability and a principled way to face the problems that surround us. It is quite simply our best hope for the future." Now, I can't in good conscience generalize about our class beyond your incredible capabilities and determination. Speaking to the global events we endured together borders on the cliche. But what I can say with absolute certainty is that these past 3 years of learning alongside you and often from you as my peers has been the honor of a lifetime. The moments I am most proud and sincerely the most in awe of all of you is when you fuse this understanding of the law that we've all been developing and working on with exactly who you are as individuals, making something all the more new, novel, and special. You have given me a great deal of hope, not just for the future of the profession, but for the way our world can improve, little by little, step by step, imperfect person by imperfect person. So when someone asks you what you'll do with your law degree, with your legal education, I implore you to say, it depends. Because I believe, and I submit to you, it depends on all of us. Thank you.